Hello, lovelies. This is Amy Yongyeon, and I am frequently called Amy Yummy Yum. And I am so excited that you have chosen today to join me for my segment of my Appreciate Your Past program. This is a self-paced online program that is designed to help you identify and overcome trauma from your past. The program has 4 different steps to it, and today you will be participating in the Journey to Wholeness through Forgiveness module. I'd like to introduce you with a quote that is one of my particular favorites from Marianne Williamson. Marianne says, "Forgiveness is not always easy. At times it feels more painful than the wound we suffered to forgive the one who inflicted it. And yet, there is no peace without forgiveness." Appreciating our past is very difficult when you have painful experiences that you are holding on to. For many, the most difficult and at the same time the most rewarding part of that process is learning how to let go of hurt and to forgive the person who hurt you. So today, you are going to begin this process of forgiving those who were responsible for hurting you in your past. During this process, you will discover what forgiveness is and what it is not. We will learn together the difference between holding on to our pain, anger, and resentment, which is often manifested in the revenge cycle, and the beauty and freedom that comes as a result of taking part in the journey to wholeness through forgiveness. The process begins by telling the story of the hurt. Then we will name our hurt, claim our hurt through guided meditation, and conquer our hurt. Finally, we will grant forgiveness and learn new methods to continually find forgiveness. Desmond Tutu says, "Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is actually remembering. Remembering and not using your right to hit back. It is a second chance for a new beginning. And the remembering part is particularly important, especially if you don't want to repeat what happened." In my complete online program, in lessons 1 and 2, we begin the process of appreciating your past by defining your roles and completing 1 session of inner child work. If you are in need of some preliminary work to help recognize and let go of childhood trauma, I highly encourage you to take the entire Appreciate Your Past module in my Yummy Life Heart-Centered Total Life Transformation program. If you want information, just email me at hello@yummylifementoring.com. Today, we're going to begin this journey to wholeness through forgiveness. The journey we are about to undertake is loosely inspired by the Book of Forgiving by Desmond Tutu and Mpo Tutu. I highly recommend you use this book as part of your healing process. For me, it has been completely life-changing, and it is one that is on my required reading list for my private clients. To access this book and other trainings by the Tutus, you can see her work at mpotutuvanfirth.com, and I have provided that link for you in your heart work packet. Our journey will also include life coaching and mentoring techniques that I have personally developed and discovered on my own journey to forgiveness. I hope that you will undertake this process seriously and do the work. It really is hard. It's not easy, but it's most definitely worth it. Now let us begin this important step by learning how to forgive the person who hurt you. First, let's start by defining forgiveness. The journey to forgiving those who have hurt you in your past begins with recognizing your need to grant forgiveness. And it is often easiest to undertake this journey when you are not currently experiencing trauma. So I do recommend that this is a past trauma that you are working to forgive today. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. Forgiveness is not easy, and it is not forgetting what happened. It is not weakness, nor is it letting the person get away with the harm that they caused you. Most importantly, forgiveness is not allowing the person to justify their actions. Forgiveness takes work, and the most important part of this work is remembering what happened in a way that will increase your understanding. Forgiveness is a gift I give myself. It allows you to recognize the shared humanity of those responsible for your hurt and find a resolution to your pain. Forgiveness allows you to move forward in your life healed and whole. And I will just tell you that on my own journey to find forgiveness for people that have hurt me in my past, it has offered me so much healing. Forgiveness truly is the key for healing your past trauma. Let's look at the revenge cycle. When you think about past traumatic experiences and those who were responsible for hurting you, it is very easy to want to hold on to the pain. Some of us hold on to our hate, hurt, or humiliation as a badge of honor, as if to say, hey, look what I've been through. Isn't it horrible? Don't you want to feel sorry for me? Some of us hold on to our pain as if it were a punishment for the person responsible for hurting us. We tell them, you hurt me, and can't you see how much I'm still hurting because of what you did? We hold on to it because forgiving that person would mean that you were no longer hurting them back. Sometimes we hold on to the pain as a mean of punishing ourselves. We think, it was my fault this person hurt me. I don't deserve to feel better. Whatever your reasons for holding on to pain, when you do, you're trapped in a cycle that is just as harmful to yourself as it is to others. When you hurt, are harmed, or experience loss that leads to pain, and then you have the choice presented to you. If you choose to harm the person or yourself in return, you reject your shared humanity. And then you strike back out of anger, which only leads to more violence and cruelty, and in return turns into more harm. Hurt people hurt people. I'm sure you've heard that saying before. But if after you're harmed, you choose instead to heal the pain that you've experienced, a whole new world opens up to you. Once that heals, not only your pain, but the pain of generations past, and it reverberates into the generations in the future. You stop this vicious cycle of hurt, and you embrace a gentler, more loving, heart-centered way of healing. It's like dropping a pebble in a pond. The change happens immediately in your own life. But because you've chosen to heal from hurt, that pebble of healing or forgiveness then reverberates out. And what I found in my own experience is that it reverberates out into healing other areas. I haven't had to go through this process for all of the hurts that I've needed to forgive. What I found is that if I go through this process for the major hurts, the one that really I'm holding on to, then I'm able to forgive maybe other hurts that person has caused me or other similar hurts without really even thinking about it. It becomes just like this key that unlocks this door to healing, and everything starts flowing out rather than just the experience that you're working on healing. Now, I want to make sure that you understand this principle right here, and it's very important that you're open to this. Because during your journey to forgiveness, there'll be many emotions that will arise. And contrary to a lot of cultural teachings, I personally believe and have seen in my practice, there are no bad emotions. Let me explain so you don't automatically turn me off here. So you might be embarrassed by feeling hurt by maybe a seemingly insignificant situation. So maybe something small happened and you felt hurt, and then you become embarrassed because you felt hurt, because your feelings were hurt. The feeling hurt was not a bad emotion. Or you might feel ashamed that you allowed someone to hurt you. For example, for a lot of women that have experienced sexual assault, there's a lot of shame attached to that because we feel like somehow we could have prevented it from happening, that we somehow did something to allow this to happen. We feel victimized, but we also feel responsible for that victimization. Not for 100% of women, but gosh, for the majority of my clients that have been sexually assaulted, this is definitely a truth. Like, for example, if you feel angry because you were betrayed, or if you're frightened or frustrated or anxious or depressed or worried or harassed or sad or frustrated, a lot of times that good girl syndrome tells us these are feelings that we shouldn't feel. Like, good girls don't get mad. Good girls don't feel betrayed. Good girls don't get frustrated. Good girls don't feel anxious or depressed. Good girls should have lots of faith, and that would overcome fear. Well, the list of these bad, quote, bad feelings goes on. And I want you to understand that feelings in and of themselves are not bad. It's what we do with these feelings that may or may not be productive, helpful, or sometimes even harmful. So often we're taught that certain emotions like anger, hate, jealousy, and disgust are bad emotions. They're not. They're not bad emotions. What they are is something that is telling us there's something wrong. So just as pain in the body tells us that something is wrong, emotional pain tells us that something has happened that either has assaulted our dignity or causes our values to be compromised. It's important to recognize that these emotions are not wrong, but acting out on the emotions, holding on to the emotions, or beating ourselves up for these emotions is unhealthy. Remember when I said hurt people hurt people, and holding on to that hurt or acting out on that hurt is what is not productive. So as you progress on your path to healing, one of the things that I've noticed is that I am triggered a lot less. I'm able to go into situations where in the past I would be really triggered by something that someone said or did. And I'm able to actually go through that process without feeling triggered. I'm just kind of in neutral. And neutral is a place of power because you can choose to act or react depending on the needs of the situation, what's most productive. And I know that as you do this, you'll experience this same beautiful change in your hearts. You'll experience fewer negative emotional outbursts, and you'll experience trauma in a more neutral frame of mind, and your healing will accelerate. Just taking this one step towards healing one trauma, forgiving one person for something that they've done to you, starts the ball rolling to accelerate your healing. And I'm not saying that you'll never be triggered, okay? I'm not saying you're never going to get upset or angry. I'm not saying that you're not going to have any emotional outbursts, because we are mortal beings. We're human and we tend to do those things. But what I am saying is you'll find it happening less and less. And you'll find that when you've healed one major trauma, there's many more traumas that get healed at the same time. It's beautiful. The way I like to talk about this is, if you've ever had a sliver. Now, it's gardening season for me right now. It's June in Utah, and it's a beautiful summer this year. And I've been working a lot in my garden. And I have these raised garden beds. And then in our yard, there's a lot of places where there used to be stickery bushes or rose bushes or those kinds of things. Well, I like to walk around barefoot outside, which is kind of funny because I'm constantly saying to my kids, "Where are your shoes? Where are your shoes?" Right? But I'm constantly walking myself barefoot so that I can ground myself to Mother Earth. So I go out every morning and I check my garden, and I'll walk around barefoot in my garden. Well, inevitably, I'm going to get slivers when that happens, right? You're going to step on something that you didn't see that's either like a thorn, or maybe because I've got raised garden boxes, I'm weeding the garden boxes. I usually don't use gloves because I like to get my hands in the dirt and the soil. And I'm not one of those women that have beautiful manicures, right? Because I'm really hard on my hands, so I don't bother manicuring my nails. So I get my hands down in that dirt and get dirty, and inevitably, almost every single time, I'll get a sliver. So what happens when you get a sliver? It's like, ow, right? That hurts right then and there. And you look at it, and unless you can pull it out right away, a lot of times there's parts that are deeply embedded into your body, and you're like, well, I can't get it out right now. So what do? You go along your way, right? You just keep weeding, or you keep going forward with your day saying, okay, my body's going to take care of this. What I found is that, maybe I'll be doing dishes the next day, or maybe I'll be on my computer or on the phone helping a client, and I'll hold onto my phone, and all of a sudden that place where I got the sliver gets brushed, and the pain gets triggered again, right? So the pain actually didn't happen right then, but it's triggered again. And so then I'll be like, okay, I've got to take care of this right now. So I will grab my tweezers and sterilize them, and I'll get to work on the sliver. Well, what happens when you pull a sliver out that's been in there for a while? I know we're getting gross here, but what happens? Usually it takes junk with it, right? You pull the sliver out, and then out comes with it all this other gross stuff, like the bacteria and the inflammation and maybe your body's immune response or whatever. It's just gross. We don't need to describe it. You know what happens when you pull a sliver out. And what does it leave? Well, it leaves a wound that needs to be healed, right? Well, the forgiveness process is very similar to that. So you'll have one trauma. Let's say you are one of the, I think it's like over 87% of women now, right? Over 87% of women are either emotionally or physically abused at some point by a loved one in their life. Sexual, physical, or emotional abuse. That's a horrible statistic, but it does happen. And so let's say you're one of those women, and you decide to heal maybe one of the really intense situations. And so today you've made that decision. You're going to heal one of those really intense situations, and you decide, okay, I'm going to heal, say, for example, I'm going to take my own situation. Okay. I was sexually assaulted when I was a teenager. And so I will say, okay, I'm going to forgive the person who sexually assaulted me. And so you go through that process. What you'll find is taking that massive sliver out, it's going to bring with it all the other times that you felt victimized in similar ways. So all the other times other men may have been octopussy with me, you know what I mean? Or maybe all the times I felt like, that I was sexually harassed, or all those same situations, right? So healing the one big sliver is going to take with it the other slivers. Trust me on this process, because I have seen it happen so many times. And one of the reasons why talk therapy kind of backfires for a lot of people is because they over and over and over again rehash painful situations, and they don't actually heal the wound. It's like taking a sliver and just like pushing on it, but not actually pulling the thing out. After that sliver is removed, you got to heal the wound. You got to fill it with things that are beautiful and loving. And we are going to do that in this process. We're going to fill the wounds that you have, especially during the guided meditation that you'll be doing in step 5. It's a beautiful process of filling those wounds, kind of like if you put an antibacterial on your wounds so that it heals properly. Okay. So I want you to understand also, sometimes they don't have to be big things, right? Sometimes it can just be everyday assaults on our dignity. And I want you to understand, if you have someone in your life that is a narcissist, that is, or has borderline personality disorder, or who is psychologically abusive or emotionally abusive, then sometimes they're not big things that need to be healed, right? They're little things. They're everyday assaults on our dignity. And I want to let you know right now, you're not imagining that pain. What happens is those little everyday assaults undermine our self-worth, and they erode relationships that should be powerful, core, sustaining relationships, especially if the person who is a narcissist or who has borderline personality disorder is a parent, is a spouse, or is a sibling. Or maybe a grandparent or someone else in your life, a partner that is someone who is influential in your life. It erodes those relationships. Those relationships should be core, positive, building relationships. And when the person has these tendencies towards everyday assaults on your dignity, it hurts and it erodes those relationships. So if your hurt was one that was not a specific incident, or rather the result of ongoing slights and injustices, or like words that are just flung at you every day out of malice or ignorance or hate, it doesn't make your hurt any less meaningful. You don't have to be a victim of sexual assault. You don't have to be a victim of domestic violence. You don't have to be a victim of like a mugging or a rape by a stranger, or maybe like a betrayal from a spouse, in order to have things that really, truly, genuinely need to be forgiven. Neuroscientists have found that the brain doesn't differentiate between physical harm or emotional harm. Our brains process memory of any type of injury in the same way. And so healing for physical wounds can be relatively easy and straightforward, but healing from emotional wounds can take a lot of time and a lot of work to heal. And so I'm very grateful that you have chosen to begin this journey with me today. So we're done with our introduction. We're going to go ahead and proceed to lesson 1 when you're ready. The things that you'll want to have ready for lesson 1 is a journal or loose leaf paper, because you're going to do some writing exercises. Also, please make sure that you print out your heart work packet. The packet's for all of the healing modules, so you only have to print it out once, and perhaps it would be a good idea to keep that with some loose leaf paper in a notebook so you can create your own journal of forgiveness. I'll see you in our next lesson. Tell the story.